There comes a season in life when the world begins to slow, just a little. The once racing hands of the clock soften their pace, and silence, once a stranger, becomes a frequent guest. Children grow, careers retire, routines shrink. And in this stillness, many of us begin to hear something new, or perhaps something we've always ignored. It's not just the ticking of time, but the gentle rustle of questions we never thought we'd ask. Have you ever found yourself sitting alone in the afternoon sun, a cup of tea cooling in your hand, wondering, what happened to the voices that used to fill this house? Or maybe you felt it in the quiet corners of holidays when chairs go unfilled, or in the way a phone remains stubbornly silent despite the hours ticking by. This isn't just loneliness, it's something deeper, a quiet ache, a question whispered through the years. Am I still seen? Am I still needed? For many older adults, these questions become the undercurrent of daily life. We don't always speak them aloud. After all, we were taught to be strong, to smile through discomfort, to take pride in resilience. But strength doesn't mean silence. And growing older doesn't mean growing invisible. This video is not about sadness. It's not about blame. It's about truth and what we can do with it. Because if you've ever felt brushed aside, if you've sensed your own children pulling away, if you've experienced the sting of being ignored by the very people you raised, you are not alone. Not by a long shot. In fact, you're part of a quiet majority, a generation whose love helped build homes, raise families, and shape communities. A generation who now finds itself sitting quietly while life bustles on without always looking back. So what do we do with that? Do we retreat further into silence? Or do we gently, firmly, and with full dignity reclaim our place in this world? That is the heart of today's journey. We're going to talk about a subject that's tender, sometimes painful, but absolutely vital. What to do when your children don't respect you, or worse, seem to ignore you altogether. Not just how to cope with it, but how to rise above it with strength, purpose, and calm clarity. This isn't about creating conflict, it's about restoring balance. You see, relationships, especially those between parents and grown children, are not fixed in stone. They're living, breathing things, and just like any living thing, they can drift, weaken, or be starved of attention. But they can also be tended, pruned, and revived. And here's the truth no one tells you enough. You still matter. Your wisdom still matters. Your presence, your voice, your experience, they are treasures, not relics. But sometimes the world needs reminding, and sometimes we have to remind it ourselves. Over the next few segments, we'll walk together, step by step, through this complex emotional landscape. We'll unpack the reasons why adult children may drift away, not to excuse their behavior, but to understand it. We'll explore how to set healthy boundaries, communicate from a place of calm power, and most importantly, how to find deep personal peace, regardless of how others behave. You deserve respect, not just for what you've done in life, but for who you are today. You deserve relationships built on mutual care, not obligation or guilt. And if those relationships aren't being offered freely, then you deserve the tools to protect your peace, to preserve your dignity, and to build a life that is rich in meaning, connection, and self-respect, even if it means walking a different path. So take a deep breath. This space is for you. There's no judgment here, only truth, compassion, and strategies that actually work. By the end of this video, you won't just understand why this emotional distance happens, you'll know what you can do about it. How to hold your head high when love feels one-sided, how to protect your joy, and how to lead with grace, even when the people closest to you forget just how much you deserve it. Because this isn't the end of the story, it's a turning point. And sometimes when the noise of the world fades, that's when the real music begins. Let's begin together. Now that we've set the stage, now that we've looked the silence in the eye, it's time to talk about something even more difficult, yet necessary. The people in our lives who drain us instead of cherish us. People who may carry our blood, share our name, and yet treat our kindness like a bottomless well. Let's begin with someone many older adults know too well. We call them the constant taker. You might recognize them. They're the ones who only show up when they need something. A loan, a favor, a free babysitter, a ride, your time, your energy, your attention, always on their terms. And when the giving stops, so do they. They don't ask, "How are you?" They don't call unless it's convenient. Birthdays might pass without a word, but heaven forbid you miss their call when they're in need. You raised them. You poured your life into them. And yet now it feels like the only version of love they understand is transactional. And here's the hardest part. Often this constant taker is your own child. That truth can feel like a punch to the heart, because as parents, especially mothers and fathers from your generation, you were taught to give, to sacrifice, to put yourself last. And for many years, you did that gladly, because that's what love does, right? But love, real love, must flow both ways. Not always evenly, not always perfectly. But if love becomes a one-way street, where you give and give and give, and receive only silence or demands in return, it stops being love. It becomes something else, something hollow, something painful. Now let me be clear, this doesn't mean your child is a bad person. Life is complicated. Adult children carry stress, wounds, and blind spots. But complexity is not an excuse for cruelty. And emotional neglect, even when wrapped in busyness or excuses, still leaves scars. So how do you deal with the constant taker? You start by reclaiming your boundaries. Think of your heart like a beautiful old home. You can keep the doors open to guests, but not if they stomp in with muddy boots and never say thank you. You have every right to expect respect, to say no without guilt, to ask, "Is this relationship fair? Is this serving both of us?" If your child only calls when they want something, gently point it out. Say, "I miss talking with you just to talk." If they borrow money and vanish, stop the flow. Let your love be a safe harbor, not an endless ATM. Yes, they may get upset. They may accuse you of being cold or selfish. But remember, when you've been giving too much for too long, even healthy boundaries can feel like rejection to the one who's been taking. That's okay. Let them sit with that discomfort. Let them learn. Because here's the truth they may not see yet, but must. You are not here to be used. You are here to be loved. It's not wrong to help your children. It's beautiful. But only when help is met with gratitude, not entitlement. Only when your well-being is protected too. If your kindness is met with silence, or worse, with manipulation, it's time to step back and ask, what would I tell a friend in my shoes? Chances are, you'd tell them to stop carrying the full weight of someone else's needs. You'd tell them they deserve more. So tell yourself that now, because the constant taker will take until there's nothing left, unless you draw the line. Not out of bitterness, but out of love for yourself. When you begin to set healthy limits, something remarkable happens. You regain your strength. You start to see who truly cares and who only cared when it was easy. And here's the most surprising part. Sometimes when a taker realizes the well is no longer bottomless, they pause, they reflect, and they grow. But even if they don't, you will. You will grow stronger, clearer, more at peace. You'll make space for the people, friends, neighbors, even new companions, who value you not for what you provide, but for who you are. Because there is a world beyond obligation. There is a life after disappointment. And in that life, your heart is no longer a resource to be mined, but a garden to be cherished. So let's move forward with that truth in hand. You are not selfish for protecting your peace. You are not cruel for saying enough. You are wise. In the next part, we'll explore another kind of challenge. The person who wounds not with demands, but with words. The subtle belittler. A smile on their face, but daggers behind the compliments. Let's keep walking, one step at a time. So we've talked about the constant taker, the one who drains you dry without ever refilling the well. But there's another figure just as damaging, and often even more subtle. This one doesn't take your money or time. They take your joy. They're the chronic critic, the person who always finds something wrong, someone who's never quite satisfied, never quite impressed. No matter what you do, they don't yell, they don't scream, but their disapproval is like a steady drip on stone. You feel it every time they raise an eyebrow, every time they sigh, every time they say, Well, that's not how I would have done it. Maybe it's a sibling, a longtime friend, even a partner you've shared decades with. Or maybe, just maybe, it's your own adult child. They cloak their words in concern. I'm just being honest. I'm only saying this because I care. But what they really deliver is 1,000 tiny cuts. You're still wearing that? Are you sure you should be eating that at your age? Why do you always say things like that in front of people? You're so sensitive these days. They correct, they dismiss, they question. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to shrink. You second-guess your choices. You bite your tongue. You walk on eggshells around them, wondering if today will be one of the good days where they keep their criticisms tucked away, or one of the usual days where nothing you do is quite enough. Here's the thing. You were not born to be someone's target board. Growing older doesn't mean becoming smaller. It should mean becoming more fully yourself, your wise, weathered, beautiful self. But the chronic critic wants to keep you boxed in, trimmed down, polished to fit their mold. Why? Because criticism is often control wearing a polite mask. For some people, finding flaws in others makes them feel powerful. It gives them a sense of order, of superiority. They don't see the damage they cause, or worse, they do see it and dismiss it. They might be wounded themselves. They might have grown up never hearing a kind word, and now they pass that silence along like an inheritance. But their pain is not your burden to carry. And here's what matters most. You are allowed to draw a line, even with someone you love. Start by noticing the pattern. Write it down if you have to. Every time I talk about my health, she changes the subject or makes a joke. Every time I get excited about something, he reminds me how impractical it is. These aren't isolated incidents. They're patterns of disrespect. Then speak up, not with anger, not with venom, but with clarity. You might say, I know you mean well, but your words are starting to wear me down. When you correct me in front of others, it makes me feel small. I want our relationship to feel safe and respectful for both of us. Now, will they understand right away? Maybe, maybe not. Some chronic critics are deeply attached to their role. They may deflect, deny, even accuse you of being too sensitive. But sensitivity is not a flaw. It's a signal. It tells you something is hurting. It's your inner compass saying, this doesn't feel right. And you deserve to listen to that voice, especially now. Because here's the truth. The words you hear most often shape the way you see yourself. And at this stage of life, you deserve to be surrounded by words that lift, not crush. Find those people, even if it's just one. A neighbor who always greets you with warmth. A grandchild who lights up when they see you. A friend who lets you be exactly who you are. And if the chronic critic refuses to change, if every interaction leaves you feeling less than, then it's okay, truly it's okay, to create distance. That may look like shorter visits, fewer phone calls, changing the subject when their criticism creeps in, or even saying, I'd rather not talk about that today. Protect your peace like it's something sacred, because it is. You've spent your life tending to others. Now it's time to tend to yourself, to surround your spirit with softness, encouragement, celebration. You've earned it. As we move to the next chapter, we'll meet someone even more hidden, someone who wears charm like a costume, but manipulates behind the scenes. We call them the pretender, and they're perhaps the most dangerous of all. Let's keep walking. You're not alone. You've walked with the taker, who drains your energy. You've endured the critic, who chips away at your spirit. But now we arrive at a different kind of burden. This person doesn't raise their voice. They don't take your money. They don't even criticize you out loud. Instead, they sigh. They pause. They remind you, sometimes subtly, sometimes shamelessly, of all you owe them. Meet the guilt tripper. They're the ones who drape emotional chains over your shoulders and then act surprised when you're too tired to move. You've probably heard lines like these. After all I've done for you, I guess I just don't matter anymore. If you really cared, you'd be here. You used to call more. At first, it might sound like love, concern, nostalgia even. But underneath, it's manipulation. And it's heavy. The guilt tripper thrives on keeping score, Except the scoreboard only counts your faults. They tally every favor, every sacrifice, every past effort they made for you. And they use that as currency to control your present. And often, the trap is set with family. It could be a child who makes you feel bad for setting a boundary, a sibling who plays the martyr every time you make a different choice, even a spouse who expects endless patience but offers none in return. Guilt is a powerful tool because it whispers instead of shouts. It sounds like your own voice. It makes you question yourself. And slowly, it convinces you that caring for yourself is selfish. But let's set something straight, right here and now. You are not selfish for choosing peace. You are not ungrateful for wanting space, and you do not owe anyone endless access to your time, your energy, or your heart. Guilt is not proof of love. Guilt is a leash. And the guilt tripper? They tug on it every time you try to walk away. Maybe you planned a quiet afternoon for yourself, and suddenly they call, saying they just don't know what they'd do without you. Maybe you skipped a family event because you were tired, and now you're told you've changed. But here's the deeper truth. You are allowed to change. You've spent a lifetime putting others first, raising children, helping neighbors, bending over backwards in the name of being good, reliable, selfless. But now it's time to ask yourself, who carries you? If someone uses your kindness against you, turning your compassion into a weapon to keep you in line, that's not love. That's control with a tear-streaked smile. So how do you protect yourself from the guilt tripper? First, recognize the pattern. When you feel that twist in your stomach, that familiar pang that says, I should, instead of I want to, pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this out of love or out of fear of disappointing them? If I say no, will they respect me or punish me with silence or shame? Do I feel better after we talk or worse? These questions shine a light through their fog. Next, set a gentle boundary. You don't have to be cold. You don't have to explain every detail. You can simply say, I know you're disappointed, but this is what I need right now. I care about you deeply, but I also have to care for myself. I'm not able to do that today, and that's okay. At first, they may resist. Guilt trippers are not used to hearing no. They may sulk, withdraw, or double down on their emotional appeals. But if they love you, and not just what you do for them, they will learn. And if they don't, you still have the right to protect your peace, because your golden years should not be spent walking through emotional minefields. They should be filled with connection, not obligation, with shared joy, not quiet resentment. You are not here to carry everyone's feelings on your back. You're here to live, to breathe, to be. Let go of the guilt. It's not yours. And remember this. Love that demands your sacrifice to feel satisfied is not love. It's control. Now, as we look ahead, we turn to one final figure. This one may seem kind, supportive, even selfless, but behind their generosity is something far more dangerous, a hidden agenda. They're not asking for your money, not asking for your time, not even weighing you down with guilt. They're simply pretending, smiling on the outside while quietly steering your life in directions that serve them, not you. They are the pretender, and they may be the hardest to spot of all. So take a breath, gather your strength, and meet me in the next part. We're not done yet, but we're getting close. You've made it through the emotional storm, the taker, the critic, the guilt tripper. Each one took something, your energy, your confidence, your peace. But now we meet someone even more subtle. Not a thief, not a shamer. This person doesn't ask for your help. They're too proud for that. They don't criticize you to your face. No, they admire you. They compliment you. But underneath it all, they're keeping score. This is the secret competitor. They don't want what's best for you. They want to be better than you. They're the friend who always seems to one-up your story. The cousin who suddenly starts doing the same things you do. Volunteering, painting, gardening, but with just a little more flair. The neighbor who can't wait to mention that their grandson made the honor roll right after you mention yours passed his driving test. It may seem harmless, a little annoying maybe, but over time something unsettling sets in. You start shrinking your joys. You hold back when sharing good news. You hesitate before mentioning your vacation, your health improvements, your happy moments. Because you know what's coming. Oh, you finally went to Florida. I've been going there for years. Your knees healing? Well, I just ran a 5K with mine. You joined a book club? I run one. Their compliments are always lined with comparison. Their enthusiasm always has a hidden scoreboard behind it. And what hurts most? It's not strangers doing this. It's people you love. Sometimes it's a sibling, other times a longtime friend, and occasionally, even your partner. You see, the secret competitor doesn't hate you, but they're trapped in a quiet war, one you never agreed to fight. To them, your happiness feels like a threat. Your peace is a mirror, reflecting what they feel they lack. And rather than face their own emptiness, they choose to compete with your fullness. But here's the truth they can't see. Life isn't a contest. There are no trophies for being the busiest, the fittest, the most admired at the senior center. There is only one finish line in life. And when we get there, none of this petty comparison will matter. So why do they do it? Often it comes from insecurity. They feel they've lost time. They fear becoming irrelevant. They think they have to prove they still matter. And the only way they know how is by outdoing others. But you don't have to play. Your joy doesn't need to be louder. Your stories don't need to be bigger. You are not in a race. So how do you handle the secret competitor? First, see them clearly. When someone always turns your light into a shadow, when your good news is always their cue to outshine you, that's not support. That's subtle sabotage. Next, don't engage in the silent tug of war. Don't try to keep up. Don't make your life louder just to prove you're still winning. Instead, speak from a place of quiet confidence. When they one-up you, smile gently and say, "That's wonderful, I'm happy for you." And leave it there. Not cold, not confrontational, just calm. You see, nothing disarms a competitor like someone who refuses to compete. But what if it goes deeper? What if this person starts trying to control you, suggesting what you should do with your time, your hobbies, your appearance? That's when a firmer boundary is needed. Try saying, "I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I'm happy doing things my own way. I'm not in a rush, I'm enjoying life at my pace." It's not a competition, it's just life. You'd be amazed how those words break the spell. Because the truth is, your later years aren't for keeping up. They're for settling in, for enjoying what you've built, for reconnecting with what truly matters. Peace, presence, and people who bring real joy. Not rivals, not record keepers. So here's your reminder. You don't need to be the best. You just need to be whole. Let them run. Let them race. Let them chase the phantom of better. You walk with purpose, with grace, with wisdom earned over a lifetime. Now, as we prepare to close this journey together, we face one final truth. Sometimes the most dangerous person in your life isn't someone else at all. It's the voice in your own mind, the one that says you're not enough, you should have done more, you're too late. In the final part, we meet that inner shadow, and we'll show it the door. We've met the taker, the critic, the guilt tripper, the secret competitor. Each of them has left their mark in a way that hurt us, but at least their intentions were clear. Their actions, loud and obvious, made it easy to see them for what they were. You could stand your ground. You could set a boundary. But now we encounter a different breed. This person isn't loud. They don't make demands. They don't compete directly with you. In fact, they're often so sweet and caring that it's hard to imagine anything is wrong. This is the passive-aggressive manipulator, the one who hides behind the mask of kindness and affection, while quietly working to control you from the shadows. Their power lies in subtlety. They never come out and say what they mean. Instead, they give you hints, cloaked in niceness, wrapped in concern. They don't yell, they suggest. They don't attack, they question. It might start with small, seemingly innocent comments. "Oh, you don't mind if I make this decision for you, do you? I thought you'd want to be more involved, but I guess it's not that important to you. You probably forgot, but I took care of everything." They act like they're doing you a favor, but in reality, they're taking control. And when you call them out, they act as if you are the one who's unreasonable. You're the one causing tension. you're the one who doesn't appreciate their help. Behind their calm demeanor, they're creating a sense of dependency, manipulating your emotions and decisions without you even realizing it. They twist the situation so that, in the end, you feel guilty or unsure. What they're doing to you isn't out of love, it's out of need for dominance. And the worst part, they never directly ask for what they want. They don't come at you head-on like the others. No, they're too clever for that. Instead, they plant seeds of doubt, sowing confusion, guilt, and anxiety. You might hear them say something like, "I'm so tired, but I guess I shouldn't have asked you to help. It's fine. I'll do it myself. I'm sure you're too busy to help me with this. I didn't realize I was asking too much." You feel that pang of guilt, don't you? You start questioning your own choices. Should you have said yes? Did you do enough? This is the emotional manipulation at its finest. The passive-aggressive manipulator knows how to use your kindness against you. They make you feel like you're being selfish if you stand up for yourself, making their requests seem like genuine needs. And your refusal, a personal offense. The more you give in, the more they demand. It never stops. They will never admit they're controlling the situation. It's always you. You are the one who can never do enough, be enough, or care enough. But here's where we take a stand. Recognizing the manipulation is half the battle. You don't need to shout or accuse them. That's not the path. But you do need to draw a clear line in the sand. They want to make you feel guilty for choosing yourself, but here's the truth. Your needs matter just as much as theirs. Your time, your energy, and your emotions are yours. So what can you do when this person subtly pushes your boundaries? First, remain calm. They thrive on your emotional responses. When they try to guilt trip you, resist the urge to explain or apologize. Instead, practice saying things like, "I hear you and I understand, but I'm going to have to say no this time. I've already made my plans, but I'll keep you in mind next time. I know you're trying to help, but I need to handle this on my own." You see, standing firm doesn't mean being cold or unkind. It means being true to yourself. When you do this, the manipulator will try to make you feel small, and they might even pretend to be hurt. But that's part of their game. It's your job to remain consistent. Second, don't get caught in their emotional trap. Don't play the who's right game. They want to make you feel like you're the bad guy for having boundaries, but your needs are not up for debate. Try saying, "I'm sorry you're upset, but I've made my decision. I think it's the best one for me. I can't change my mind on this, but I'm happy we can talk about it. Let's agree to disagree on this. I'm comfortable with my choice." Finally, take care of your emotional well-being. Living with a passive-aggressive manipulator can leave you feeling drained and self-doubting. So make sure to take time for yourself. Surround yourself with people who uplift and support you. Refill your emotional cup with activities that nourish you. Don't let this manipulator define your worth. And as we come to the close of this chapter, we remind ourselves that we don't need to play games with anyone, no matter how carefully they try to disguise their true intentions. The next part of our journey takes us into one of the hardest lessons of all. The final person we must protect ourselves from is not someone else, but the person inside our own head. By now, you've learned to recognize the tactics of those around you: the takers, the criticizers, the guilt trippers, the secret competitors, and the passive-aggressive manipulators. You've set boundaries, stood firm, and reclaimed your space. You've built up your defenses against these external forces. But now there's one final challenge ahead, a challenge that often hits much closer to home. It's the voice that whispers in your ear when no one else is around. It's the thought that creeps into your mind when you're quiet, when you're alone with your own feelings. It's the sneering, self-doubting voice that tells you over and over again that you're not good enough. This voice is the inner saboteur. The inner saboteur is a hidden enemy, one that's not found in the outside world, but deep inside your own mind. It's the critic that never stops talking, the voice of self-doubt and insecurity that constantly undercuts your confidence in your self-worth. And let's be honest, this voice can be louder and more destructive than any person we've encountered. It's the one that convinces you that you're unworthy of love, happiness, or success. It tells you that you're too old to change, too set in your ways to learn something new, too broken to heal. But the truth is, this voice is not you. This voice is the result of years of self-criticism, societal pressures, and the judgments of others that have been internalized. It is the accumulated baggage of negative thoughts and fears that have been planted in your mind and taken root. It may sound like a gentle whisper at first, but over time, it grows louder, more persistent, and more insidious. So how do you silence this voice once and for all? The first step is to acknowledge that the voice exists and recognize that it does not define you. This may sound simple, but it's a powerful realization. The inner saboteur thrives on secrecy and shame. It gains power when you believe its lies. When you stop accepting its messages as truth, you begin to strip away its control. Imagine this voice as an uninvited guest at your party, a guest who's constantly criticizing the decorations, the music, the food, and your guests. At first, you may have listened to it, thinking it was offering valuable advice. But now you realize that this guest isn't helping. They're just making everyone uncomfortable. So you politely ask them to leave. Second, you must challenge its lies. When the inner saboteur speaks, ask yourself, is this true? Is it really true that you're too old to try something new? Is it really true that you can't improve, that you can't still grow, evolve, and experience joy? Is it really true that you're unworthy of happiness or love? The answer, of course, is no. These are lies designed to keep you small and stagnant. The more you challenge these thoughts, the less power they have. I am not defined by my age or my past. I am capable of creating change. My worth isn't measured by what others think, and I deserve to live a life of peace and fulfillment. I can learn, grow, and experience joy no matter where I am in life. The next step is to embrace self-compassion. For far too long, we've been taught that being kind to ourselves is selfish or indulgent. But in reality, self-compassion is one of the most powerful tools you have to quiet the inner saboteur. When you show yourself kindness, when you allow yourself to make mistakes, to be imperfect, and to grow without judgment, you weaken the grip of the voice that tells you you're not enough. Start by practicing small acts of kindness toward yourself each day. Take a moment to appreciate something you've done well. Celebrate your strengths, no matter how small they may seem. Allow yourself to rest, to take care of your body, and to feel proud of your journey. It's important to remember that the inner saboteur thrives on the belief that you are somehow unworthy of kindness, of success, of peace. When you counter that with acts of love toward yourself, you begin to shift the narrative. Finally, surround yourself with positivity. The company you keep has a profound impact on how you view yourself. If you're constantly surrounded by negative voices, whether external or internal, it becomes harder to silence the inner saboteur. But when you surround yourself with people who uplift you, who remind you of your worth, your light begins to shine through. Seek out relationships that encourage growth and positivity. Find communities, groups, or activities that help you nurture your sense of self-worth and joy. The more you immerse yourself in these environments, the less room the inner saboteur has to grow. The inner saboteur is not a voice you can fully erase overnight, but you can choose to listen to it less and less. You can decide that it no longer has the power to control your actions, your thoughts, or your dreams. And when you choose to ignore that voice, when you choose to believe in your own strength, resilience, and potential, that's when you begin to live your truth. That's when you break free. As we close this series, I want to leave you with this reminder. You are not defined by the voices that try to tear you down. You are not a sum of your fears, your doubts, or your regrets. You are someone who is deserving of peace, joy, and a life full of love. So let's silence that inner saboteur and start living the life you truly deserve. Thank you for joining me on this journey. May you find the strength and courage to thrive, no matter what challenges may come your way.